Greetings, loyalists and heretics. Welcome to Iron and Ceramite, where we once again enter the war without an astropath.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Iron and Ceramite podcast. I'm John, and as always, I'm joined by the delightful Dave.
Hi everyone.
The stunning Shane.
Hello.
The tremendous Tommy.
Hello.
And the glorious Glenn.
Hello.
I thought I'd try and spice up the intro for a change, for a bit of excitement for everybody.
Marvelous alliteration. Very nice.
Exactly.
Amazing.
I had the thesaurus out just for today. Couldn't get my codex out, but I found a thesaurus. So how's everyone doing? Good?
Excellent.
Yeah. Awesome. Right, let's begin. Who wants to go first? Who wants to tell us what they've been up to since the last time we spoke?
Let's leave it to Dave, because I know he hasn't done anything, so might as well get him out of the way.
Very quick roundup of what I've been doing. Not very much. Moved house, so packed all my Warhammer up and moved it to the new house. I do actually have a new hobby space in the house, but it's under the stairs, so I'm going to be a bit like hobby Potter under the stairs. But I'm going to stick a chair under there and hopefully get some good lighting in there. And I will actually have my own space, which is nice because the missus says that I'm not allowed to display it where people can see. So that's it. It is all unpacked, but I just need to make a few tweaks on the hobby area and then I can get going with the painting again. Other than that, I haven't done much.
No, that's the name of the podcast there, isn't it? Hobby Potter.
Is she not a fan of the shelves I've got going on, Dave? Does she not want to copy
she told me in no uncertain terms that I'm not allowed anything like that. So
it's not very nice.
Banished to under the stairs.
When you say hobby space, how big is under your stairs? Can you actually get in there with all the models?
Yeah, okay. There's already shelving in there, so it won't need too much tweaking. It should be all right. I just need to get a nice chair, some good lighting, and I think it'll be all right. And then I can close the door and just ignore my family as well.
Perfect.
I need to get some curtains for this part of the living room then, so I can do the same. How about you, Tom? You've got a lot popped up on Instagram this week.
Yeah, I've done quite a few things. I mean, I'm trying to get up to 10 captains. So I've got, because obviously, like I said before, I'm going to, eventually I want to have a full chapter, around about 1,000 Marines, probably by the time I'm near enough dead. But that's what I'm going for. So I need 10 captains. I've just made my 9th, which was the guy with the spear and I think he's a bloodletter's head in his left hand. I think that's a bloodletter of Khorne. I'm not sure. But I made him. I'm also making my 10-man Vanguard veteran squad completely kit bashed to look like Blood Angels, or obviously my Sanguine Reapers, because they're a successor chapter of the Blood Angels. So 9 power fists, a power sword for the sergeant, who's going to take it in as a relic, hopefully, and 10 plasma pistols. So 335 points just for 10 Vanguard veterans, but I think it'll be worth it just for a laugh, really. I mean, I think it's going to look pretty cool on the tabletop. So mostly I'm making them out of Sanguinary Guard, Death Company, some Vanguard veteran bits, Blood Claws plasma pistols, just because I could get 10 for dirt cheap on eBay and just cut the Space Wolf bits off, and then some 3D printed shoulder pads. So yeah, they're looking, in my opinion anyway, they're looking pretty good at the moment. But I'll keep everyone updated on Instagram. Other than that, I kit bashed Shane a Space Wolf for some reason, and that was the last of it, really. So that was it. I haven't been reading anything because I've found VR now, as you know. So yeah, I've been on that quite a bit, or all day actually. So yeah, that's me done really. Just waiting for the rest of my, what am I waiting for? My Death Company backpacks, jump packs to arrive, and then I'll be done with them and be ready for the big reveal.
Exciting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting them done, man. I'm going to batch paint these as well for the first time. So I bought a couple of shading brushes, the ones that obviously you put on the Nuln oil and Agrax and all that, just to use for my, because before for my contrast paints, I've been using regular brushes. You're not really supposed to do that. I just didn't think about it, and I thought they're ruining my brushes. That's because you're supposed to be using a shading brush. I just haven't bothered to look it up properly. And so I'm going to start using them from now on, and hopefully that'll be a lot quicker for me to get them done and just bash them out in like a couple of days. So yeah. Any questions?
How come you've gone for doing 10 captains? Are you going to play them as a squad, as captains, or?
No. Just like for one captain for each of my companies. So there's usually 10 companies in a chapter. So I just wanted one for each, first to the 10th company. So yeah, just for being a nerd, really, like nothing to do with the tabletop. Just for setting up my Sanguine Reapers properly for my own satisfaction, really.
Fair enough. No, that's not nerdy, is it? Well, it is nerdy, but
Are you kit bashing all of them, or are you using some of the actual Codex Blood Angels ones? Like, are you using Tycho and stuff like that as one of them?
No, I wasn't sure. I think I'm going to take out all of the Blood Angels leaders completely in the end, and occasionally use just some of my troops if I want to play as Blood Angels. But I think just for the fact that I want to be more unique, even if you do get more benefits from playing Blood Angels, I sort of just want to play it for fun sort of thing and had to have my own chapter. So I think eventually I will maybe fade out the Blood Angels, like specific characters, and just use my own and make them up to chapter masters and whatever, and probably play it that way. So yeah, all of them eventually will be kit bashed. I think I've got 9 captains at the moment, including my my two Blood Angels ones, or no, my 3 Blood Angels ones. So yeah, I need a few more still, but I'll get that done. Shane, what have you been up to?
This week has actually been quite quiet in getting stuff done, but I think after the last pod, I finished painting the Vindicare assassin. So I put him on Insta, so I got him done. I also stripped all the paint off my my Bjorn the Fell-Handed that came. Someone else had painted, and I obviously wanted to repaint it. I got off eBay. That worked really well, actually. I used something called cellulose thinners, which are really good for cleaning metal models, but it just took it all off.
Yeah, I saw.
So that worked really well. I was also up in the loft looking through my old box of bits and models and stuff like that. I managed to find 5 Adeptus Arbites. So 3 with shotguns, 1 with a grenade launcher, and 1 the captain of the squad. But I don't think you can even play with them anymore. I don't think they're in the game anymore. But I've got them, so I might paint them as a side project. And then I'm just working really slowly through like 5 Primarchs assault intercessors. It's just taking me ages. It's taking me ages to get it done.
You sound utterly defeated with painting these models.
I am, like, it's just been sitting on my desk looking at me. Like, he won't get done. And I'm like, oh god, it's taking ages. So I'm having a real lull with the painting at the moment. But as I said, once I get those done, I've only got 3. I think it's 3 Eradicators, and then I've got my 1,000-point Space Wolves done. Nice. And like, then I can paint what I want as opposed to what I need to paint. And then the only other thing I did was fired up Deathwing again on the PS4. So I had a blast on that last night and was playing it again this morning, and ended up rage quitting because I got taken out by a turret, and I was like, that's it, I'm done. But yeah, no, it was, that's been about it. That's been good fun. I've enjoyed playing that.
I think we'll have to start up a little squad at some point and properly play it multiplayer wise, because I've not really delved into playing it. I literally went through the you have like them training phases at the beginning, don't you, where you learn how to move and shoot and everything. And I did the first wave, which was relatively easy, but then the blokes who are with you are just impossible to control. They're not doing anything you say. You got to press so many different commands to get them to do what you want them to do. So in the end, I just went on my own and left them to it and just started shooting as much as I can. But it was pretty fun. I mean, I think if we had 4 of us that all knew what we was doing, which we don't, but if we did, we'd actually be pretty decent.
Yeah, I played the first level, and for like 10 minutes, you're just walking for ages, and you find a couple of, I think they're like gene stealers or whoever they are, or cultists.
Yeah,
it takes ages till you get to your first proper battle.
Yeah. that first level, that one where you've got to defend the bridgehead, I think it is, right at the end of that first level. Yeah, that kept when the exploding gene stealers come at you, that kept causing me problems. But yeah, it was all right.
Yeah. Well, I own that game twice now because I bought it on PC ages ago, and then obviously Tom, you told me to buy it on a PlayStation so we can play together. So we better start playing it because I bought it twice.
It was £6.24.
That's 2 tubs of paint.
True. That's how you quantify money now, isn't it? Tubs of paint.
Every time I'm like, "Can I buy anything?" And she's like, "No." I was like, "Oh, but I just want 3 tubs of paint." Or buy a coffee. I don't want a coffee. I want a tub of paint. But I've finished my other 2 blight haulers, so now I've got a squad of 3. I think with both of them, I went for like more contrast paint. So the belly of one of them is Gilliman flesh, and then the body of the other one is plague bearer flesh. So they look different.
I think the best one you painted so far was that second one. Was awesome.
Yeah.
Really, really looked good, that one.
Yeah, really. I like because where I just sort of used layer paints for everything else. On the Gilliman flesh, all like the veins and the boils and stuff have popped out quite nicely. So it looks very slimy indeed. Yeah, so I painted them and I finished reading Descent of Angels today because we need to get some more Omnis done. So I've pushed for it. It was okay. Reading it a second time, like I've already said, was quite hard. But the last part of it, once they actually become Astartes and get on with it, it's all right. But I have the same problem with that book that I did with the Space Wolf book, where things are just repeated and over-explained. Because I know that they're trying to give us a bit of this is the mindset of this legion, and this is the mindset between these 2 main characters. But when it's every chapter where you seem like you're getting reintroduced to why their same motivation over and over again, it's like, okay, I got that. There's about 100 pages too many here, but fine. It's fine. It's a good story. And like Shane said to me a couple of times, it will pay off when we get to Fallen Angels. So I'll get to it and I'm sure it'll be worth it. But it was a hard second read. I think, Shane, you still got to listen to it, haven't you?
I do, yeah. I'm probably going to try and get through most of it over the bank holiday between like painting and stuff like that. I think I could when I'm painting, I can always listen to those sort of things. So
you could do it while you're painting your assault marines, just to be twice as bored.
Jesus Christ, it's unbelievable. Like,
get it all out of the way.
I know I've just got to get it done, right, and then then I'll move on to something else that will eventually disappoint me. But yeah. Oh, and that was the other thing. I did manage to play a game as well. I played against my eldest. So I managed to have a quick game.
Yeah.
How was that?
It's fine. He won, so that was a bit annoying. But yeah, no, it was all right. Yeah, that was good. Just sticking to the basics because I would have had to explain to him all of the tactics and stratagems and stuff like that for Space Wolf. So we just played it fairly simply, but it was it was good fun. It was good to actually get the models on the tabletop and actually play the game rather than just paint them. Because as I said, that's what I really like. I like the playing the game. So I'm looking forward to getting more of that. And
I'd love to see his reaction when he won.
It was what was quite interesting is in the final turn, it could have either been a draw, so we would have both finished on the same victory points, or he would have won. And it was down to the what was it down to? Oh, it was down to my Scorpec destroyers fighting his warlord, and he had his warlord was a Terminator, and he made his saves. He made his save rolls, so that was it. Like, didn't kill him, didn't get slay the warlord, and he won by 1 victory point.
It's quite an honourable thing that being the adult knowing how to play, you didn't just say, "No, it don't count, mate."
Yeah. Well, normally, I try and I don't normally pull any punches, so I was attempting to crush him, and because that's the only way you learn. But no, he, in all fairness, he managed to completely outdo me. Mainly, he killed my warlord in like the second turn, again with the Terminators. So that was
Yeah.
that was a bit frustrating. But yeah, it was good. It was good.
Well,
How long did the game take in total, Shane, to get through it? How many points was it again?
So it was only 500.
500.
So it took us about, as I said, it was about an hour, maybe a little bit less.
That's not too bad then, is it?
Yeah, because, as I said, it was, and it got quicker because you just start getting into the rhythm of it. So you just start, remembering things like strength and toughness, and whether it's a 3 or a 4+. And once you start remembering those sort of things, it speeds up. But yeah, pretty good.
so
Awesome,
when we start playing in a month or so, are you going to be like, come on, my child knows how to do this better than you lot?
We already know that's true.
I think we'll get into the bits where it'll be, because the bit that I think is always struggling, it's just remembering all of the stuff your different units can do.
Yeah.
So all of their like the little stratagems and all the little special abilities and bits and pieces that they might have, and you understand why people forget, like really easily forget to do it, because there is so much to remember. But it was, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. As I said, if he can do it, we can do it. It's fine.
Yeah. How about you, Glenn?
Well, I have looked at some stuff, considered reading some stuff, and ultimately not really done anything other than fiddle around with a few computer games. So I gave Vermintide 2 a go. Didn't like it at all. Not my style of game at all. Went back to playing Blood Bowl on the iPad for a little while, just because Blood Bowl's a classic, and set up the clan for the Iron and Ceramite group on Combat Cards, available on Android and Apple.
We're not sponsored.
No, unfortunately not.
Glenn and his little backhanders.
Yeah. No, because once I sorted out the clan and Shane joined, I was appalled to find that Shane had more points than me. So I rectified that over the past few days.
I noticed yours shut up to open.
Yeah, damn right it did.
I've seen that as well, and I was like, like obviously you've gone straight to Holy Terror, and I was like, I'm going to have to work out how to score more points. But I did notice that you jumped up. It's nothing like a bit of friendly competition.
Yeah, no, go your best 5 and rotate round.
That's exactly what I do. Yeah, that's exactly it.
I actually do it with 6 because I've got 6 pretty decent decks, and then the Necrons and the Tyranids are just sort of sitting down there on like a couple of hundred, and then everything else is around about the 2,000 mark.
Yeah, I said I do it off 5, but I couldn't get 6 up to the required level to keep them going. But I find with the 6 it's good because on each season, one of them tends to drop off more than the rest of them, but it's not always the same one, depending on what new cards come out and stuff like that. So I just think, I'll keep going with the 6, and obviously I've hit Terra probably earlier than I've ever done it. Yeah.
So now it's just going to be a lot of fiddling around for the next 10 days or so before it resets.
Indeed,
so I want to try and get into that top 50% in Terra, I think, is my aim.
Oh, very lofty. I normally just get to Terra and I'm done. But obviously, none of the rest of you guys play combat cards yet. Tommy, you've downloaded it, haven't you?
Yeah, I've started playing it.
John's downloaded it as well.
Yeah, John, have you got enough? Are you high enough level to join it, John?
No, I can't join the clan. I haven't played it since because I wanted to ask you guys, what am I missing? Because I don't get it. I don't get the appeal.
It's such
or the
a
point of the game.
game.
Yeah, because it's like I got 3 cards. I tap them. I seem to attack. I get attacked back, and then the game's over.
Yeah, but what attacks do you use? In what order?
How
do you stack your cards? Who do you use first? Who do you use second? There's a lot of tactics behind it.
Is there?
Loads of them, mate. If you ask Glenn and Shane, I'm sure they know a lot more than me.
Because I played the tutorial and it just seems to throw 3 cards at you, and it was like, cool, put them in an order, but I don't know. I didn't realise that they attack. I just clicked the picture of the sword and a little action happened, and then an action happened back, and I won a few games, and then I tried to join the clan. And it was like, no, mate, you need to play a bit more. Maybe I'll play a bit more because it's like collecting Pokemon cards, isn't it? It's addictive.
I actually don't know what how far in you actually have to be to join the clan, because the clan set up that you can join from level
Level
1.
6, it said on my thing. You must be level 6 to join the clan.
Okay, right.
And I think
So
I'm level
there's-
2.
Because there's no limit on. I didn't set a limit on the clan, so if anybody that's watching wants to join, they're more than welcome to come and join us, and they have easy access to us because obviously you can chat to us through the clan chat as well.
How have you spelled it, Glenn? Do you remember? I haven't got it in front of me. Was it
It's,
iron and
it's
like the little ampersand
iron
thing?
and symbol Ceramite. Yeah.
You fight each other, people from your own clan, or
You
does it
can
actually
do,
let-
yeah. You can have friendly battles between clan mates.
Well, I'll
Not-
get in
not-
eventually, and then
I've
you
not
can all
done that
get
with
your
anybody.
points up by beating me. It's fine.
No, it's as far as I'm aware, because I've never done a clan battle. It's just friendly.
Yeah.
You can look at what the other person's doing, because like realistically, if I played you or Tom now with some of my massive decks, I would just slap the shit out of you, and it would be no fun at all for you.
It's not that fun anyway.
John's not sold, I don't think.
No,
I'll get there. It's like anything. You got to play it for a bit, haven't you? Maybe it's because
Doesn't help that you hate losing.
I love to lose. I lose very well. I'll play. I will. I'll get up there. I'll figure it out. I'll get it. Like everything else. We've also.
So long story short,
Yeah.
Glenn, you haven't done anything then.
It's Games Workshop related.
Lately. Yeah, true.
Yeah. It's all things Warhammer, isn't it? So
Yeah,
it
I did
counts.
spend quite a long time actually looking at various online stores as well about trying to find reasonable prices for a new army.
A new
So-
army. What are you going to buy now?
The Grey Knights we talked about a couple of podcasts ago. We talked
Yeah.
about next projects. Yeah. So randomly I came across this American site that does it for like 50% of the retail value.
Nice.
And if you spend over $80, you get free shipping.
Oh, nice.
So it was $80 bang on, and that was a pot of wash, 2 squads of Grey Knights and a Dread Knight for $80, which is nothing. That's about 60 quid.
So
yeah,
if we account the obvious shipping delays from America
yeah, it's
and your procrastination, you will paint those in about
Yeah.
8 years.
yeah.
That's generous.
Well, we look forward. Well, I'm a nice guy, really.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing those one day.
It is a little bit ridiculous though that the cheapest models you can find have been shipped to America, and then to get them shipped back to the UK is cheaper than buying them from UK sockets.
Yeah.
But
Makes no sense.
I think the only other thing that's new for us is we set up a Twitch channel as well this week, haven't we? Nothing's happened on there yet, apart from me.
Oh yes, it
saying,
has.
"Can you
that was
hear
hilarious.
me? Can you hear me?" But it's up and running now, and it works. So eventually we'll get some games up and running. We'll do some painting streams on there and whatever.
My favourite part was that, right? I was watching it at work. You're trying to do it on Twitch now and again when I could add 5 minutes, and literally you just gave up on the end and just put a music video on there. Just left it. I was like, what the fuck's going on?
It's because I couldn't understand why I couldn't hear, like no one could hear me. Like so I bought a webcam now and everything seems to work. But I've got a microphone. I've got all different kinds of headphones, and I was plugging them in, going through all the different options, and just nothing would work. So I had Dave just listening to music. And I was like, "Can you hear me?" Dave's like, "Say something." I was like, "I am saying something," but it's working now. It took me 2 days, but and I actually had to watch some videos as well. But we have got a Twitch. It does work, and between us, I'm sure we'll do some stuff on there
Yeah, man.
eventually. Cool. Has anybody else got anything else that they want to bring up before we move on?
No, I don't think so.
Cool. So, on this episode, we're going to be looking at the Redacted Primarchs, the Lost and the Purged. we're going to do it in sort of two parts. We're going to just talk about the Redacted Primarchs, what we know about them. I know there's not a lot, but we'll go into what we do know, who they were, why were they redacted, a bit of lore and any conspiracy theories. And then we'll go into our own little bit that we'll do at the end if there's time, where hopefully we've all had a bit of a sit down and written something about our own sort of bit of fan fiction or lore of one of or two of what could have happened to the Primarchs. So if that sounds good to everybody, who wants to start with the what we do know sort of stuff?
Very little.
Very little, yeah.
I think Shane, you know quite a lot about them, don't you? I think because you mentioned him before. So
Yeah,
putting
no,
you on the spot here, but
yeah, no, I said I think as Glenn summed it up quite well. There's not much that's known about them in any of the official canon. Obviously, they're mentioned throughout various books and snippets and stuff like that, but never explicitly. And there's the two plimps in the what's it called, the on Terra in the palace.
in
there's
Kathmandu precinct in the Imperial Palace.
There's all the plimps, and there's the two that are missing. That the two obviously lost Primarchs. There's I don't know whether it's actually canon or whether it's more just theory as to whether or not the Space Wolves and Lehman Russ took one or both of them out, and that's how they earned the moniker the Emperor's Executioners.
Yeah, it's been mentioned twice, at least twice.
Yeah,
apparently.
But I don't know whether that's actually the case, because if you watch certain lore videos, they say maybe that isn't what happened. But that's one of the theories, is that that's where they got their that's where the Space Wolves got the moniker, the Emperor's Executions. I know outside of the lore, and I believe this is the case, but it might not be, they were originally kind of created as just two, for anyone to create their own chapters, as it were. So there were two sort of like unknown Primarchs, because there was space for you, the player, to create your own chapter. So a bit like what you're doing with like the Sanguine Reapers and the successor chapters. That's what they were originally there for. And then as time's gone on, they've got this kind of lore that's been built up. And then the other bit that, or the other area that they talked about they could have been involved in, is the Rangdan Xenocides. And that at least one of them, I think I'll say it was the second, but at least one of them was potentially involved in that, and that could have something to do with it. And we don't even know whether or not they were, they fell to chaos, or whether they, were also rebellious. Because I think at some point Dawn says that that was a warning that everyone should have heeded. The two lost ones.
I will read it out if you want. I've actually got it written down. What
Please
it says.
Please do.
So this is what Dawn said in Kathmandu precinct in the Imperial Palace. He said the 2nd and 11th plimps have been vacant for a long time. No one ever spoke of those two brothers. Their separate tragedies had seemed like aberrations. Had they in fact been warnings that no one had heeded? So that's it, though. Not a lot you can really gather for that, but
Yeah. So it's tough to work at it's one of those things that I think is incredibly annoying for lots of fans, because they want to find out, that they want to be like, this is what's happened. But the simple fact is that we don't know, because Games Workshop, Black Library, they haven't written it. I don't think they have, because they haven't addressed it in so long. I don't think they ever will, because it's one of those things that's just always intriguing. Like us, like we're pulling the strings to put things together, but we're just never going to know. So it's entertaining, but it's it's tough. And then the other theory as well is that obviously the Primarchs, this I think is more canon. Obviously the Primarchs were expunged, but the Marines, the Adeptus Astartes in there, all joined the Ultramarines, and that's why the Ultramarines chapter numbers swelled so much during that time. I think that's actual canon. Which means that obviously some of the Ultramarines are not from Gilliman's gene stock. But then I don't know. I don't think there's any imperfections with the gene seed, but none of it's come up in lore anyway.
There was one other part, right, which I was thinking about that. where you say they joined the Ultramarines, and there's a lot of talk on that. But there was also one bit. There was from a short story. I'm sure you've probably seen it somewhere. I think it was a Slave of Nursia, Angron, the Slave of Nursia, the short story.
Yeah.
And in it, one of the former World Eaters Legion Masters, obviously before Angron and all that, who's now a dreadnought called Lorkay, said twice before the Emperor has purged his progeny and every living soul who followed them. So, I mean, did some of the Primarchs or the lost Primarchs, whatever you want to call them, did some of their legionaries follow them? Some of them not. Some of them stay loyal to the Emperor, similar to the heresy sort of with Tarvitz and obviously all of the legions that split. So perhaps that's what happened.
Someone's gonna, because like anything, is it? Some people are going to agree with what they're doing. Some people aren't, because with a lot of the legions, reading Descent of Angels, some of the Astartes that joined the Dark Angels come from Terra, and then obviously you had the ones that were raised from Caliban. So where does it sort of line up? The loyalties, the guys who come from Terra, same with the Death Guard, people that come from Terra, are they going to be more loyal to one than the other? So is that how they decided who got purged and who got put into potentially the Ultramarines?
Well, I suppose it's all like a play on words, really, isn't it? I mean, it says twice before the Emperor purged his progeny. Does that mean he purged them from existence or from the records? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you who knows?
And is he including the Thunder Warriors in that sort of thing? So
possibly.
You don't know, because they've written so little about it, and it's all obviously for us to sit here, what we're doing now, and use our imaginations to figure out. I don't know where it falls into the heresy, but it probably would be a spoiler, because I watched quite a few lore videos about this, and apparently at one point, while Dawn is sort of fortifying the palace on Terra, he's down in the tombs or whatever, with Malcador, and he sort of brings up the two lost legions and said, if only that we had more, maybe we stand a chance. And Malcador cuts him off and says, that's not an option. Like, they're gone for a reason, and sort of tells him that in the days when things were happening, like Dawn was one of the people who sort of spoke up in their defense. But as a result of everything happening, like, sort of tells him that his mind was wiped as a result of whatever happened. Like, so obviously everyone obviously was quite aware that they existed. Everyone knows they existed, but no one can remember what's happened to them. So Malcador's had some sort of input in mind wiping even the Primarchs, which I think Dawn doesn't take too well at first. But obviously he obviously comes round to reason in the end. So there's some good conspiracy theories really of what actually has happened and why they've been purged.
But there was also sorry, Dave, go on.
You say that it's the lost and the purged, isn't it? So
the forgotten and the lost, it said on my one I read.
I read the lost and the purged. Yeah, I don't know, but I don't know if they're saying one was lost and one was purged, or if they're calling them the lost and the purged.
Was one lost? So obviously, Shane mentioned the Rangdan Xenocides, which was the worst thing to happen before the heresy, basically. So was one of them lost during that, and was the other one sort of purged because of his actions? It leaves there's so many sort of avenues that it can go down. Yeah. I think that's the appeal of it, and I think that's what Games Workshop want, in my opinion, just for people to think and guess and question and make stuff up in podcasts.
I'd be curious. You don't think?
No, because you can't. I mean, you can't. Then who is going to go out there and say, I want to buy my own army, I want to come up with all this lore for myself and imagine who my own Primarch is and how my army would act? Yeah. And then they say, I can't do that anymore. We know exactly who they are. Like, there's nowhere to go for them. I don't think they'd ever bring them back. I think they'll still carry on like they're doing, mentioning bits and pieces that could be one way or the other, but never mention them properly. I don't think so.
I think it's a big tease. Like, that's what they're doing. That's all it is. It's they'll keep doing it, stringing it along, because as you said, I don't think it's in their interest to reveal anything about them, because as I said, it keeps the conspiracy going, and every now and then they'll drop that breadcrumb, that clue that someone will latch onto and go, well, if you've got this and that and this, and then there's the string and web, and then they'll go, and it turns out it was Gilliman. But do you know what I mean? It's like that's what'll happen.
Make it blue.
Yeah, I don't think they'll reveal it, but
if they play it right,
interesting to talk about anyway.
Yeah, if they play it right, I mean, because you don't know what the end game is for the. I don't know how much the creators of Games Workshop still have involvement wise, but if this goes on for the next 100 years, eventually they're going to get to a point where they go, do you know what? Let's bring a Primarch back. Let's put someone's story in, because everyone will rush out. We'll all go out in our electric wheelchairs. We're like, give us the codex. Give us the codex. We need to know. And then we'll all come back. We'll still be podcasting, obviously, and we'll be like, "This is bullshit. We hate it. It's crap. This isn't what we wrote."
Yeah, that's it. And then Tommy will be, binning off
Dead.
his
No,
whole
I'll be dead by
chapter.
then.
Yeah, although I mean, you might have just finished your chapter. That's
Yeah, true. So just got to 1,000 Marines, the last brush stroke, and then have a heart attack immediately. I reckon. I've done it.
But we know Glenn would still buy the whole army and never paint it.
Yeah, but I might have finished the first one by then.
Oh yeah, one collection done.
Yeah.
Glenn, did they tell you anything when you worked for Games Workshop? Did they tell you any of that?
No, I remember
you're one of us.
I remember some of like the various rumors going round that I looked into specifically for this podcast about the numbers being linked to the Roman legions that were lost. But I looked into that and it's utter balls. I think the only Roman legion they've been lost is like the 9th legion or something like that. So yeah, the numbers don't stack up for that. I've got my own sort of conspiracy theories as well, which I think we'll get on to a little bit later. But I think Shane's right. They do keep just dropping little bits in, even now with the 9th edition box and books that's come out with that. There's still little bits from Golan now and Crawl or whatever his name is. Little bits between those two that just sort of it alludes to little bits. And the closest we've ever come to finding a name is Horus utters the start of the name I can't remember which book it is, and it's something starting with M-A-L, but that's all we've got.
Malice.
No, because if you look, this is purely speculation, but if you look at like the size of the redacted bits in various codexes throughout the years,
They're long names, aren't they? One of them apparently.
One of them's quite long, and the other one's reasonably long. It's bigger than Malice. If it was going to be Malice, it would be Malice something, and it might be one of the longer names. But it's not likely to be that.
Malcolm.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Second Primarch, dangerous,
Malcolm.
deluded Malcolm.
But yeah, I'm like any hobbyist that's been in it for a long enough time that I have my own little thoughts on the matter as to who and what and why, and even to this sort of only came up recently in my mind when this podcast got discussed to start with about the soul drinkers. There's various chapters out there, and soul drinkers is one of them, that thought they came from a specific gene seed, and upon testing, it's not the gene seed they thought it was. So the Lost Legion's gene seed is possibly out floating around out there somewhere that current modern day, well, future modern day chapters currently have the Lost gene seed, or the Purged, or whichever one it was. Because in my mind, one was completely gone and the other was sort of stuck in with the Ultramarines.
Well, the Primarch, as in he went into the Ultramarines himself, or
No.
disappeared in his legion.
Both Primarchs gone, and they completely eradicated one legion, and some of the other legion, once they got rid of the second Primarch, got absorbed into the Ultramarines, or maybe even just dispersed throughout the various different legions as part of just recruitment that they got in to boost their numbers. Secretly.
What? Sorry. What are the soul drinkers? Where They split from.
Soul Drinkers are sort of a modern day, sort of current Space Marine chapter. They fight for the side of the Imperium, but they've been branded Hereticus because they've got all these sort of weird mutations, and they actually had some issue with some kind of xeno, possibly demon weapon that they found. So yeah, they are a loyal chapter, but the Imperium doesn't recognize them as a chapter.
So no one knows who they're from, though.
From?
I think they thought they were possibly from the Ultramarines gene seed, but it turns out they weren't, and they might have Imperial fists. And I can't remember. It's a long time since I actually looked at the Soul Drinkers books. The Soul Drinkers series is very, very good, but I can't honestly remember what. I think they were sort of. It ended up they just didn't know where their gene seed originally came from.
Maybe they need to change their name, because when you hear Soul Drinkers, you don't exactly think loyalist, do you? It's not a very nice name.
No, and their chapter master is a librarian with spider legs. So yeah, he's a little bit weird.
But then that's like we're talking like chapters with names that may be a bit chaotic. You got people like Flesh Tearers and stuff like that. They're loyalist, but
they're from Blood Angels, aren't they?
They are, yeah. They're Blood Angels.
Flesh Tearers. Oh joy, the Flesh Tearers have come to save us. Doesn't quite ring out, does it? You think, oh shit.
Yeah. Blood Angels have got a couple of dodgy ones because they got the Blood Drinkers as well.
Yeah.
Well, the Blood Angels themselves drink the blood of their enemies, so that's not normal for a start.
Well, yeah, it's one thing to do that in secret, but they come proudly on the battlefield. It's like, yeah, we're the Blood Drinkers. Woo!
What does
do you reckon they've all got massive chalices each, just running after their enemies? Come here and drink your blood.
Well, their symbol is a chalice with a blood drop going into it. So yeah, it's
brilliant. What do fans of Twilight call themselves? Because that could be your next chapter, Tom. Wankers.
That's right. That's what we call them. Sorry. Yeah.
The blood wankers.
The blood.
I'm wanking blood.
Now, is that used as a lubricant, or is that going so hard until you bleed?
Or is it not the blood of the enemy?
Even his Slaneshi wave.
Oh dear.
Okay. Well.
Moving on.
Okay, so for the next part, we've talked about all the things that we do or don't know about the Primarchs, anything that is actually written. So for this next bit, we've all spent some time. We've all spent some time, and we've written our own either conspiracy theories or a bit of fan fiction of what we think may or may not happened to the Lost Primarchs. So let's put someone on the spot. Dave, you're going to go first.
Oh, okay. So mine's mine. It was sort of nod to one of my favourite films as well.
Twilight.
Which is Hot Fuzz. So
nice.
My theory is that after the Rangdang's insides, both of the Primarch sort of brothers got together and said we don't really like the way that the Imperium is acting, and came up basically with a plan to leave. Hence them being purged and lost, so to speak. A lot of the Astartes didn't follow them, and they ended up on their own. So off they go into the space and try and avoid the Imperium for the next few thousand years. Eventually, they come up with something called the Greater Good. After stumbling across a race of sort of warring tribes called the Tau. And they abduct a few of these Tau and create, using some of the technology that they found during their sort of time with the Imperium, with the STCs, and create the Ethereals. And basically go and tell the Ethereals, go and spread the Talva or the greater good. And we'll basically have our own version of the Imperium, which is much better than the Imperium. And we accept all sort of Xenos races and sort of strive to make a better world. So that is my very basic theory. Nods to Hot Fuzz, so I'll call them Angel and Butterman after the two. The planet that they were on was Sandford. Yeah, so that's my little theory. I think that I quite like the fact that if they did leave and didn't think, I don't like what the Imperium are doing, they would try and create something better. And I think that the Tau obviously supposed to be the good guys. Not much is known about the Ethereals or how the greater good came about. So I thought that would be my little theory and what happened and how the Tau were created at the same time. And that would account obviously a lot for the advancements in 6,000 years. I think that 6,000 Terran years they've advanced to, from throwing rocks at each other to having technology capable of holding off Astartes.
So I don't know if you developed your theory that much. So does the Emperor know they're still out there kicking about leading the Tau?
Yep. So the brothers do as well. So the other Primarchs, which is sort of why the Tau are not being completely wiped out as they could have been. Obviously, there's like the High Fleet came along and they sort of stopped the war with the Tau and said, we better go kill these Tyranids. And there's been a few other bits and bobs where there's been sort of the start of conflicts, but not much that sort of came out of it. I know that a few assassins have been sent to kill some Ethereals and bring them back and study them as well. And I'd like to think that that's a nod to them being created by the Primarchs. And they're thinking, oh, what have they done? How have they done it? So I think that everyone sort of knows, and that's why they're sad, because they understand why they've done what they've done after the Raindane's Innersides and what they saw, and they thought, we've literally wiped out an entire race of Xenos, and that's not cool. So they created the Tau. Any other questions?
No, I like it, man. I think it's a good idea. I think it fits in with believability. Yeah, man, I like it. How so you say what one of the Primarchs was a Psyker, and the other one was what, more tactically minded, or to set up the the new Imperium, so to speak?
Yeah, I didn't go too much into detail. I would have thought that one of them was obviously the Psyker in the sense that he can obviously manipulate the Tau quite easily. And the other one, it sort of would be a bit more of the scientist version of the Emperor, sort of got all his traits for learning how to sort of create new things. And obviously the Primarchs were created and these Astartes are created to a certain extent. There's lots of manipulation in creating them, and they've obviously taken some of that, and one of the Primarchs obviously specialised in creating new things such as Ethereals to spread the greater good, I guess.
Who's their biggest enemy amongst their brothers? Does anyone despise them? You haven't thought of this, but I'm putting you on the spot, and I want an answer.
I like that. On the spot, creative writing.
Say Dawn. I would say Dawn would despise them because he literally sort of sticks to the book, doesn't he? Or Gilliman. They would despise them the most. Yeah.
Did any Astartes follow them, or did they just go off on their own?
So a few followed them, just as like acting as bodyguard, but the majority left and joined the Ultramarines and stuff like that. All the sort of stick to a bit of the what's sort of lore and canon already, and they lost a lot of their followers, betraying the Imperium.
So did their legionaries, the ones that stayed behind, did they stay behind through choice of not wanting to follow the traitors, or did they do it to protect their legion so they could still survive and they could just both go their own ways and all live, sort of thing?
I would say just didn't want to follow them. Obviously, they made the choice that they were going to do this, and they discussed it for the greater good and said, "This is our idea." And the Astartes went, no, I'm going to stick with the God Emperor. And
I suppose if they're fairly peaceful as well, they probably gave their guys the choice rather than virus bombing them out the system.
Nice, man. Yeah, I like that idea.
That's
I
a
think
cool
it's a
one.
good idea.
Thank
They're
you.
off together, yeah.
What did they look like? Have you got any image in your mind, or you've just
Beefcakes. Just big beefcakes.
glistening muscles?
That's all you ever go on about in your little stories.
Yeah, because that's what people want to read.
His perfectly chiseled pectorials glistened.
When did I ever write that?
Erotic fiction.
Fucking hell. Back to the Twilight again, didn't you?
What about you, John? What's your theory?
My theory, so for this one to work, the research done, so it says like by the time all 20 Primarchs were discovered, apparently these two guys were already lost and purged by then. So it's quite early on in the Great Crusade. And just sort of looking at a few different sources of timelines of when people were discovered. So it's very early on, and I think the second Primarch was either the third or fourth, very early on discovered. So for this to sort of work, it's really early on. Not everyone, all the Primarchs haven't been discovered yet, but sticking to the fact that almost all of the legions have a theme, obviously, like Vikings and the Mongolians and Romans and all that sort of stuff. One thing that we don't see much of at the minute, especially in 40k, is a piratey theme. So it's very a piratey themed Primarch. But I haven't come up with any names for anybody because I'm not that creative. But this little story I wrote is that this Primarch, he landed on a humanized colonized planet in an area to the far east of the known systems on the eastern fringes. The system comprised of about 6 planets. It wasn't a terrible environment, mostly tropical. Mostly it was vegetation and farming, and all the trading was from farming and fishing. And they were capable of very limited space travel between the 6 planets, as they're all very close together. In the years leading up to the founding of the Primarch, the governor at the time, who was on one of the central planets, began making changes to his own advantage, raised taxes, started hoarding goods for his own sort of gain and his own people, and would often raise and undervalue and underpay for goods to benefit himself, so he would become rich. When the majority of the other planets got wise to what was going on and began to resist, they started to avoid his planet, which was very difficult to do because he's in the middle of this system. So he would hire bands of mercenaries to intercept trade vessels and rob and kill the crew, kill the crew, and if he could get the vessels back to his little planet, then he would. But after some short years of fighting, the governor started losing hold on the planets until one fateful day, among some wreckage on a beach, he found a big cylinder tube with a gigantic man inside. He recovered him, took him back to his little fortress. After a few days, the Primarch awoke, and the governor, being a very clever man, realized what he had at his disposal, took him under his wing, raised him as a son, and very early on realized this guy was an exceptional warrior, very clever, and he basically manipulated him to restore his system. And obviously the Primarchs, being bred for war, and this governor being very clever, sort of said, look, these guys are trying to ruin what we have here, need you to help me, and used the guy basically over a few years of fighting to train some troops and take the system back under his under the governor's rule. The Primarch had a little bit of doubt in his mind of what was going on, but however didn't question it because he was bred for war and war was what he was given, and never really questioned his master, as he always felt like he was destined to serve. Once they conquered the system, the Primarch became bored. The governor had no really no real use for him anymore because he got what he wanted. As far as they knew, they were it. That those 6 planets were it. So he just used the Primarch as his executioner, and very soon this Primarch outgrew his role, and the governor realised the threat he possessed. So whilst he was away on a expedition, the governor tried to have him assassinated. However, that failed, and the Primarch went back and drowned his master, taking control. By some random chance, a humanoid Xenos scouting ship entered their system. They were able to take it down and study it, obviously still taking on the sort of pirate role that they had, and finding that they weren't alone in the system sort of inspired them to keep going. So they tracked down where this Xenos race had come from, and went back to their system, raiding, stealing, and pillaging as they went. As pirates do. This continued for a bit until during a time of peace, some Astartes scouting ships arrived on their planet, and immediately they saw the Primarch, told him of the Imperial truth and the Great Crusade that was on its way, and the Primarch, realizing that potentially he would get to go even further into the depths of space and raid and pillage distant lands, appealed to him. So he played along and accepted the invite. He excelled in like spacefaring battles as if he was a naval commander. That was sort of his go-to. And he actually enjoyed killing just for the fun of it. It was just something that he'd been on this piratey planet for so long that it was sort of bled into him. And soon after becoming sort of compliant, he allowed all of his followers were raised to Astartes, and he would let them go when they pillaged. He would just let them do what they want. They would ravage planets, and rather than making them compliant, they would just sort of take what they wanted, leave it in ruin, and bugger off. Eventually, the Emperor sort of realized what was going on, that there was a severe lack of planets becoming compliant and actually more destructive. So he sent Leman Russ, who'd already been discovered, to go and sort of talk sense into him, and sort of say, look, this is how it works. You need to toe the line. When Russ got there and found his brother, he was already at war, and actually Russ intervened and saved him from disaster, and helped reinforce and back them up. And they took out this other system. And as they're both, because it's pirates and because they're sort of Space Wolf Viking guys, they both like a celebration. They bonded over some beers, drank each other under the table, and then bonded while they sort of finished making this system compliant. However, when it came to sort of all the bureaucracy, Primarch number 2 wasn't interested. He'd got what he wanted and wanted to move on, and he went their separate ways. The Emperor, Russ reported back to the Emperor what happened, and the Emperor said, no, we're not having that. Go and get him, bring him back here. And he sent him and Horus out to bring him back. Primarch number 2 put up a fight, but eventually they were able to capture him and take him back to Terra. The Emperor, so disgusted by the way that he'd led his legion into ruin, and also sort of put a stain on the original Terran Astartes, he disbanded the Legion there, and then all of the Astartes raised from this homeworld of the Primarch were put to the sword and killed, and the others had their mind wiped and were dispersed among the Ultramarines and other legions, and only the Emperor and Russ know what happened to the second Primarch from there. Everybody else had their minds wiped, and that is my little fan story that I wrote.
Nice. So was he killed as well then?
Say that again.
Was he killed as well then?
Like I said, only the Emperor and Russ know what happened. The Russ has the little moniker of being the only person or the Emperor's executioner. So you can do with that lore as you will.
So that's maybe that's what Russ is doing in the walk then. He's just going out pirating with his brother.
That ties nice with that. It could be going looking for him or something like that.
Maybe he was banished. Yeah.
Maybe the Emperor sent him to kill him, but because they were pals, after their drinking and pirating, he said just run
Yeah.
and go into the warp.
And Russ took back a sheep's heart and said, "Here you go, mate. This is his heart." A bit like Snow White.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's my sort of theory. And then the and that was just something. All right, I couldn't think of any names because it was just all Pirates of the Caribbean that come to me. I didn't want to call him like Orlando Sparrow or something.
Oh, got it. It's Malcolm, right?
Oh yeah, Malcolm. Malcolm the pirate. Yeah.
No, I like it, man. I think it's a good idea. It's actually quite that'd be an interesting like chapter to see someone try and make a chapter that looks like pirates if they could somehow. I haven't actually seen that on Instagram or anywhere. That'd be quite a good scheme if you could.
Yeah, I think they'd have to be potentially. Well, they probably have to be traitor legion, because then you could give them a sort of I don't know, maybe a Slaneshi filled with some tentacles, a bit like off of Pirates of the Caribbean, like because like Games Workshop likes to steal ideas, don't they? So you could have the squid people, or they all like look like sea monsters or something like that.
But with like pirate hats on and a patch.
Yeah, with pirate hats. Because I wonder how you would do that, like an Astartes helmet, but with a big pirate hat and a feather sticking out of it. Yeah, tricorn. Yeah.
Head leg Astartes.
Yeah, well, you could do. They all get blown to pieces, don't they? One of them has a crocodile who's constantly hungry for him.
Yeah. How do they kill like traitors that they find on board their ship? Do they make them like walk the plank into the plasma reactor or something?
Yeah, it's not quite as dramatic. They just sort of shove them into. Actually, I quite like that one. Yeah, they stick them down into the reactor, push them off, or they just throw them out into an airlock.
Make them warp the plank and then send them out into the
warp. Oh.
That's terrible.
I know. Sorry.
Yeah, that's it. They jettison them out into the warp and see what happens there.
So what? So did he die or not, John? That's what we want to know.
Say that again.
Did he die or not? Yes,
no, I like Shane's theory that he's in the warp and that's where Russ has gone.
Cool. So he's alive.
Yeah, they've gone looking for him. Yeah.
Nice.
We'll bring him
back.
I
like it, man.
I'll sell that to Games Workshop if they want it. Probably not.
What about you, Glenn?
I've got a little theory on both. I haven't gone into as much detail. But yeah, so I think because the Primarchs all have a gift that is an element of the Emperor, so obviously like Vulcans are perpetual and various other bits and pieces like that, I decided that one of them was going to be a very powerful telepath. So he essentially gets, long story short, gets driven mad because he isn't able to fully control it, and all of the voices in his head just constantly going round and round and round and corrupt him. And he's the first one to actually fall to chaos, but not one of the four main gods. It's the fifth god that's not canon anymore, which is Malice. And he goes on a rampage due to being corrupted by Malice, and that is the Rangdan Xenocide, whatever it was. And that is the one that Ross is called to bring to heel and ultimately execute him. Not all of the Legion sided with him and went off on this rampage. So there was a bit of a schism in the actual Legion, and that's where they ended up with at least some of them remaining loyal to the Emperor, ended up with the Ultramarines. The other one, I think, possibly the Legion was destroyed because of corruption with the gene seed. Because the Emperor is known to be able to appear to anyone how he wants to be portrayed. If he wants to be a little old man, he's a little old man. If he wants to be a big, powerful warrior, he's a big, powerful warrior. That's how people see him. He can choose that. I think the other Primarch had this physically, where he was able to change his appearance, but again, it was unstable. It couldn't be controlled because it was in his gene seed. It also affected his legion, and because they were too far gone, whilst they were still loyal, they were utterly physically corrupted to the point where they were of no further use, and they were all, to a man, put to death, but in an honorable way, because they chose to give up their existence because they were too far removed from humanity. Nice. So not necessarily bad, and the reason that the other Primarchs don't talk about them is because of the sorrow for the lost legion, rather than actually the anger of what they've done and the reason behind it. I think it's more they're upset that they weren't able to fix the gene seed and to bring their brother back from whatever mutations and things like that. It's just too far out of control.
That would make sense.
Because it's obviously that could make all the other Primarchs sort of worried about their flaws, and obviously
I did take a little bit of the worried about the flaws from the Fear to Tread, because Sanguinius talks. Yeah, he talks to Horus about he doesn't want his legion to become a third empty plinth. And that gave me the idea for like the flaw in the gene seed. So I think, judging, just going from that, at least one of them, I think, must have had something to do with a genetic flaw rather than overall corruption, or doing something like so far away from the imperial truth that they were censored for it. But that's just my thinking.
Yeah, I like it, man. A lot of the times, because a lot of the brothers always refer to it as like a tragedy, don't they, as well? They say like almost sorrowfully, more than like them getting angry, like you said. So maybe it is like that would make a lot of sense.
Proper tale of tragedy rather than anything else, really.
Yes. Well, you know, I've got a nice soft side, so I can't have all death and decapitating.
Just a little bit, but there's a lot of heart behind it.
Yes. Who's
I like that, man.
Shane and Tom?
I like it. It's very more ground in reality. Like actually saying really crap that happened that everyone's just ignoring.
Yeah.
Cracking on with it.
I'm maybe a little bit more realistic than pirates and Toy Gods.
Pirates are very real.
Space pirates. It's good stuff.
Space pirates.
Mine is strictly orc territory, all right? Space pirates is orc territory. And maybe Dark Elba.
That's very true.
Well, that's why they got redacted, so the orcs and the Eldar could have their time. Go for it, Shane.
I was going to say my one. I'm similar to Glenn in how in depth I went. So I just had a few ideas about it. So mine is also related to the gene seed, because we know the Emperor liked to play about with a bit of gene manipulation. So we know that some of the Primarchs, have, it's not all human DNA. So like Russ, there's a bit of wolf in there, and various other ones have built-in flaws. And I think I like the idea that one of the Primarchs, the lost Primarchs, was actually the manipulation was done at a gene level, but with chaos, because we also know that the Emperor, he had a pact with the Chaos Gods to have this knowledge and ability to do these things, and so part of that price was creating one of these beings with not built-in corruption, but with chaos taint in their gene seed, and after being cast or dispersed, effectively part of the Great Crusade was to also find this individual and expunge them, because they could become potentially a greater threat to mankind than and rival the Emperor in his power. So that was the redacted one. So it's a bit of a chase to try and find him. The other one's much simpler in that he was like more of an explorer type Primarch, and basically just found himself at the far reaches in the Eye of Terror and in the Warp and in Immaterium, and was just simply lost there. But returns as that legion returns as the Legion of the Damned. Now I know some people believe them to be the Firehawks, but I like the idea that the Legion of the Damned are one of the lost legions or the lost Primarch, coming back as effectively good demons to help the Imperium out in their dark days. So that's my very short to the point two theories on what could have happened.
Like that Legion of the Damned one.
Yeah, as I said, it's a nice one. I like the Legion of the Damned. They're an easy, they could be anything, right? But
Yeah,
it ties in nicely.
I like the idea of the first one as well, like one that's like a proper. Like, sort of, I almost thought to myself as well. I was thinking that when the Emperor created them, he made one specifically for the Chaos Gods, like literally dedicated to them. And what you just said just made me think, yeah, that just does make actually quite a lot of sense. So yeah, that'd be a good idea. And the whole point of the Crusade speeding up so much was half of it was sort of like just to find him and sort of put him out of his misery before he could do them harm.
We've got to get him, because otherwise he's going to cause us problems.
What was his motivation for putting some chaos taint into him, though?
Oh, he had to as part of the deal with Chaos.
Oh, really?
So because of the bargain that the Emperor made with the Chaos powers to be able to do it in the first place, that was part of the condition. One of them had to be pre-corrupted.
and then they played a trick on him and spread them everywhere to try and get this one to
Bingo.
Oh,
yeah, cool. So
so was the Emperor's plan was to open up their chambers and just stab him straight away and have him off? Like, there you go. But
That's it.
chaos prevails.
One of them, as I said, they keep going. The Emperor's always playing 4D chess, right?
Yeah.
But so's Chaos. So they're just both, playing each other, right? The Emperor's like, well, I'm not going to do this, or I'm going to use them against Chaos, and Chaos is like double bluffing, and they're like, no, we'll do this anyway, and that's just how it's wound up.
Yeah.
Nice, I like that.
Some good theory. What about you, Tom? What did you come up with?
Oh, I wrote a bit of a story about 3,000 fucking words long.
Do it.
I know. I've tried to condense it down, but I didn't realise I'd written so much, and then the condensation's not really condensed that much. But anyway, I'll go through. I'll drone through it. So my Primarch that I've sort of invented, I suppose, is called Voltorius Trevani, and he's known as the Solace Lord. So his legion is the Sons of Solace, and their colours are midnight blue with a platinum detail and celestial and astrological patterns that are engraved all over their armour in fine detail. Their fighting style is very balanced, tactically minded. They're professional, but they also have quite a positive outlook and a relaxed attitude towards humans in general, and any species really who sort of treat them well. Their preference is to hit an enemy with long-range barrages and then sweep in with fast attacks of a mix of attack bikes, jump packs, and gunships. So the Primarch himself, has pale alabaster skin that glows, white hair spiked up, a little bit of a hipster, I suppose, I don't know, whatever. So he's got amber eyes with moving gold flecks in them a little bit. He's a psyker. His planet is called Aspirante, or at least that's what he named the planet after he took charge. In the language they speak, it sounds a little French, I know, but it just means like to aspire, sort of thing, to be better, I suppose. And the system is called the Solace system. His war gear that the Primarch wears is just a regular, really nice suit of power armor, as they all have, with a double power fists and double van brace mounted storm bolters. So his main ability that he has Obviously, he's a psyker, but he could phase shift, which is, I'm sure there's something out there called that. I've heard it in my mind before. But in this case, it means he momentarily flitters in and out of the warp with his own will, so that he can sort of shift through time. But it makes it seem as if he was in a battle, he will sort of shift like mist over a very short distance very quickly. And so if anyone's trying to swing a punch at him, a sword or whatever, or they've got him pinned, he can and he's straight out of there very quickly. Obviously, it's quite taxing to do because he's flitting in and out of the warp to do it. But every time he goes into the warp, his mind subconsciously projects like his own Jella field, so he can't be corrupted by chaos at all. So, yeah, it was a gift that the Emperor was very determined to study in great detail, as it was theorized by some of the people that was close to him that he could be the only living being that no one from the realm of nightmares could corrupt or ever possess. Voltorius could sense there was evil in the warp. I mean, it's pretty obvious to him. Although they couldn't do him any harm, it was almost like a residual heat sort of a thing. He knew that they was evil, and he despised it. So, obviously, he loved his father, but he was very distrustful of the Emperor of Mankind. He knew that there was more to the warp than his father told him and his brothers. He also believed highly in free will, as his home world when he originally arrived was a slave world, and when he arrived when he was an infant, it was complete control by tyrants all over the planet. I won't go too much into I have got a massive thing on his how he took over the planet and all that, but that would just go way too long.
Give us the cliff notes. Go for it.
No, honestly, there's still loads more to read. I'll do that for another day. So he believed, obviously, he was very free-spirited, and he believed that every human planet that was found during the Crusade should have their own choice, born of free will, whether to join the Imperium or not. And furthermore, he was pro-Xeno, very much similar to like what Dave was saying about Hayes, believing that humanity should work alongside compatible sentient Xeno life forms to combat against the more savage, brutal, and evil beings in the galaxy. It just made sense to him. Anyway, obviously, the Emperor warned him. No Xenos, no Xenos, no Xenos. Do what I say, do what I say, do what I say. Typical Emperor, really. So he sent Horus in the end, which obviously, because this was obviously early days, so Horus was the number one boy when he had the biggest legion, had a gargantuan fleet as well. So yeah, so he sent Horus as his prick. So he sent Horus as his executioner, along with his lunar wolves. Then Horus turned up. They met on the moon of Solace, or the moon of Asperante, and Horus turned up with a gargantuan strike force. He told Voltorius that the Emperor couldn't forgive him any longer for his disobedience for the good of all of humanity, and that he must give himself over to Horus's custody, returning to Terra for sanctioning. In brackets, Voltorius was sure this really meant to be studied. He knew that his father wanted to study to see what it was in his mind that made him be able to resist chaos when he was in the warp. So while his legion would be executed entirely when he was taken into custody, Voltorius would never let his legion die. So he shifted at Horus like a hurricane, knocking him 10 meters back through the air, cracking his monstrous tactical dreadnought armor across the chest with a mighty blow from his power fist, which gave him just enough time to shift himself and his warriors into the warp. It was a rushed decision. He didn't think that Horus was going to go through with eradicating his legion. So he just literally disappeared along with 100 of his warriors, never materialized again anywhere. No one's ever seen of him since. And obviously Horus was devastated at his failure to be able to capture his brother for the Emperor. But he was also glad that he didn't have to kill him as well, to be honest, because he was still sort of a goodish guy back then. He still wiped out, however, 99,900 of Voltorius's Sons of Solace, which was the remaining sons that he couldn't shift away with. And obviously it burdened Horus hugely to do that. And it was that point where the seeds of doubt were first sown in Horus on what he was doing and if the Emperor was right in doing things the way he wanted them done. And that's it.
I
really like that. That was cool.
Yeah.
There's loads and loads more that I sent to Dave, but it was just too fucking long, and it just actually rambled on about nonsense. And there was even bits I was reading thinking that don't make sense. That don't make sense. Okay, yeah, I'm just going to take. So I just took loads out in the end.
So him and 100 guys are still in the warp.
Potentially.
We don't know where they are.
Potentially. The what his plan was, he'd been practicing before because he knew Horus was on his way. He knew the Emperor wasn't down with what he was doing, so to speak. So, although he didn't fear Horus eradicating his legion, he had been practicing with his powers more because he despised the warp, hated being in it. So he never truly tried to use them properly. But in this case, leading up to Horus turning up, he'd been practicing with it, staying longer in the warp, realizing that he was completely protected in there, and his mind could protect anything that he took in there with him, objects, other people. He tried it with 1 or 2 of his legionaries, and they were protected in his bubble. He could extend his mind like a Jellifield, or a Gellerfield, however you pronounce it, of the ships have, sort of like a natural one of them, a defense. So obviously he didn't try it with 100 before because he didn't know if it would work or not. It was a last result. He tried it. His theory was that he had a ship stationed on the other side of the system in an asteroid field that was turned off and powered down, and he was going to materialize there if he could get his brain into gear and do it properly. It was obviously a big task, and the ship was later found by Horus and his strike fleet, and it was just cold, empty, nothing on there. So no one knows if he's still in the warp, if he found a demon planet in the warp, if he come out somewhere else on another planet, or if he's still got a legion somewhere with just 101 of them, including himself. So who knows? Yeah,
I really like that theory. It's sort of it's a precursor to the heresy and the doubts in Horus mind. Yeah, I like it a lot.
I like it a lot.
I like it a lot.
Thanks, Ventura there. Yeah, no, cool, man. I think we've got quite a few good little theories going on there. Yeah. We could write a book and be called the worst book in the world, and we'll have it signed by Mitchell Scanlon. I know.
Hobby Potter and the Lost Primarchs.
Hobby Potter. Yeah. Have you ever seen that film, the people under the stairs?
A long time ago, yeah.
They had their tongues cut out and that. That's basically going to be us when we're all pissed up under Dave's stairs and fucking people under the stairs down there. We go,
Warhammer!
Yeah. Oh, he's killed his Terminators. I'm not a deaf person. That's just my tongue cut out.
Okay. Has anybody else got any sort of theories or any other lore they want to throw out there that they may have read? One that there's a couple of obvious things that I sort of saw that were common, where people were saying that the 2 prime, obviously it's very circumstantial that 18 to 20 Primarchs managed to land on human inhabited planets, but potentially 2 of them may have landed on Orc planets and become Gork and Mork. That's one that I've seen pop up on a couple of things there. Obviously, they're bred for war, and yeah, no one knows what they look like potentially. So maybe they're just leading the Orcs. The Orcs think that they're Orcs, so why not? They look like Orcs to the Orcs, and they're leading the Orcs throughout the galaxy to overthrow the Imperium. I quite like that one.
That's pretty cool, actually. Yeah, it's sort of similar to Dave's one, isn't it? In a way, like another race, them being in charge of another race of Xeno.
Yeah, exactly. I think Dave's one's probably actually I like Dave's one where they've just gone bugger this. Let's start our own one and have everybody included and take over and get everyone peaceful. But these guys have gone actually. We just want to walk. And
that could be where your bloke turned up, John, the old piratey McGee or whatever his name was, Malcolm.
Malcolm.
Maybe he turned up. Maybe he's called Cornwall.
Well, yeah, maybe they were Orc pirates. Exactly. Yeah, he had a tendency for just destroying stuff.
Well, like Shane said, they are, or Shane and Glenn said, sorry, they are pretty much the space pirates, aren't they? The Orcs. I mean, if you play that card game, get your ass in gear. A lot of the Orc bosses in that have got like pirate hats on and patches and all sorts of stuff.
They've got a lot of parrots.
They're what's it called? Freebooters. That's the Orc pirates. That's it. Freebooters. Yeah.
They do look pretty cool, actually. I do love the look of them. If I ever get around to painting my Orcs, I think that would be I know I'm doing that rust effect look, but I'd like to have them little pirate hats on, and that they do look pretty awesome.
Rusty pirates. Well, they're at sea, pirates, so the salt's playing havoc on their armor, isn't it? The salt water.
There's no sea in space, John.
Well, maybe on their home planets. You don't know. You don't know what's in the warp.
True.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
sea of the warp may be different.
Yeah. Another one that I read was that the Emperor obviously made the deal with Chaos, and particularly knowing that it exists basically, it sort of exists on emotion and feelings and stuff, and that Khorne obviously he exists based on obviously blood for the blood god. Things just need to kill and die for him to exist. So he sacrificed 2 legions into the warp to fight eternally and respawn to the death, just to keep the warp in existence, so he could create his Astronomicon and travel through the galaxy. That was another one. So it's sort of like 2 Primarchs and 2 legions of fueling the warp as chaos demons, part of his agreement and part of what the so that Horus might have seen originally when he was tempted and sort of turned him against the Emperor. That's another one that I read that I thought was quite interesting. And
There must be lots of it out there.
There's loads. There's literally, like, you type it in and it's everywhere. Another one that I read is that there was only 18 legions, and he said there were 20, but 2 of you didn't do what I told you, so I killed them. And if you don't do what I tell you, I'll do the same to you. But we all know how that works out. Not very well. But yeah, unless anybody's got anything else they want to throw out there, we can look at saying goodbye for now.
No, that's pretty much it, man. I think we've covered it.
Cool. All right, then. So I know we covered it at the beginning of the last episode, but we are Iron and Ceramite. Stick us into Google. We'll pop up everywhere. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. And we're now on Twitch. And we're also obviously on, what's the card game called?
Combat Cards.
Combat Cards. We're on Combat Cards. Iron and Ceramite. Join our clan. You can either destroy me or get destroyed by Glenn. One of the two. Whatever you prefer.
I don't want to get destroyed by Glenn. That sounds so wrong.
But yeah, so Instagram wise, I am Falconite Eddie. Dave, you are
the Namakash Crusade.
Tom,
Sanguine Reaper 85.
Glenn,
Zeobin.
Go and look at all 2 of his posts. And Shane, you are
Adeptus Mansfieldicus.
And that for this episode is Exterminatus.
As always, we would like to thank you for listening to our Iron and Ceramite podcast. If you liked us, then you can also find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and any other good podcast services. Just remember, in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war.
Yeah. So there's quite a lot of...
What the hell was that?
What?
I swear I just heard like a cat being strangled.
Was it a cat? Yeah.
I heard that too. I don't know where it came from. Unless someone's creeping up behind one of us. I'm about to get my flesh ripped off.
And your blood drank.
My blood wanks. We'll cut that. We'll put that at the end.
Blood drank. Doesn't make no sense whatsoever, does it really?
Not really.
Anything we've just said for the last 5 minutes.
What's everyone drinking anyway, out of interest?
Out of date beer.
Is it Modelo? Modelo.
Yeah. Yeah, how do you know? Is that a decent beer or not?
I know the shape of the bottle. Yeah, it's like it's a Mexican beer, I believe, or South American. But it's it's like the connoisseur's choice over the likes of Corona.
Cool, because it was off September last year.
The one drinking it.
Eh?
You're the one drinking it. Surely you know if it's a nice beer or not.
No, I mean, is it like is it a good one? Like, you know, like expensive or whatever? Because I got it for free, didn't I, from work? Because they was chucking it out in that restaurant. So but it's not going to go out of date, really, is it? I mean, if it's sealed, so
no, it'll be fine. It'll lose some flavour. There's I was going to say
know in the morning.
There's a website called, I think it's called lowcostbeer.com that just specialises in selling beer that's just about to go out of date because no one else can do it. So they sell it for like much cheaper than you would normally buy it for.
Yeah, I'd buy it. It tastes quite nice. So yeah. nice and chilled. Got about 40 of them, so might as well
That's
get
all
through
right.
them.
This episode is Exterminatus. Cringe.
Oh,
Every time.
every time. Yeah.
I think it's becoming
I think it's
quite
neat.
popular.
I
I just think
don't-
they're neat.
I think it's becoming quite popular. Yeah, cool. Well done, John. Yeah.
What have
No,
you
that was
created other than a 3,000 word essay about a lost Primarch that doesn't exist?
And it goes around in circles, and it
10
makes no
stories.
sense.
I thought it was pretty good.
I liked all the theories.